Welcome to my interview today with Joanna. Is it Soricelli or is it Soricelli?
Soricelli.
Soricelli. She works at VaynerMedia, based out of New York City, and she is a vice president, group account director, and we'll talk about what that means shortly. And Joanna, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. Favorite sports team?
Yeah.
Duh. Favorite sport to watch?
I would have said football, but I'm really enjoying basketball. Like, the Timberwolves are pretty awesome this season.
Okay. In one word, taking the ferry is?
Amazing.
Okay. How do you like your coffee?
With skim milk and tea Splenda.
Favorite color? Favorite location you've been for work?
Nevis. It's in the West Indies near the Caribbean.
Guilty pleasure?
The Bachelor.
I knew you were going to say something to do with TV. I may or may not have stalked you on Twitter.
Predictable. I'm super basic.
Favorite airport?
Minneapolis is a pretty good airport.
Okay.
Actually.
Okay. Go-to snack when you're on the road?
I'm like not a big snacker.
Okay.
I don't know.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
I thought you would. Well, no, wine makes
I don't
sense.
like beer at all.
What's one food you hate?
One food I hate. I don't love fish.
Okay.
Mushrooms. I hate mushrooms.
When I say crossword puzzles, you say?
Word find.
Okay. What's one country that's on your bucket list?
Spain.
Pet peeve or biggest pet peeve?
Just like ignorant people. Ignorant, uneducated people.
Okay.
That mean? That might be mean.
No.
But that's my pet peeve. That's my biggest pet peeve.
I've had one other person say that, and I feel the same exact way. What was your first job on the books?
When I was in high school, I worked at the YMCA in Burnsville in the daycare.
Wow.
Yeah.
Favorite genre of music?
90s pop.
What's your current ringtone?
Don't have one. I keep my phone on silent.
Oh my. I guess it would be dinging all the time because, you're very popular and
So popular.
and everyone needs you.
I just found, so talk about a pet peeve, like phones going off is like a pet peeve.
Okay.
I just keep it on vibrate. I don't know. Keep it close to me. Nothing's ever that urgent. Like it's always, either in my hand or next to me. So if I miss the call, I'll call you right back.
Okay. Because you're very responsive to emails. I noticed that.
Yeah. My phone's next to me right now.
Okay, gotcha. Morning person or night owl?
I just had this conversation with somebody the other day. I'm neither. I'm like really good at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. Pop or soda?
Soda.
And paying for Wi-Fi on a plane, is it worth it, yes or no?
It's like a necessity, but definitely not worth it.
Okay. I want to talk about the culture of where you work because it's a culture of honey, so to speak, and that's what the verbiage is that's used there. Tell me what it's like to work in that type of culture from a day-in-the-life perspective for you.
Sure. So I guess for me, I've been working at VaynerMedia for just about 6 years now. So started when we were like 60 people. We're now about a little over 800, I want to say. So as you can imagine, that means like tons and tons and tons of changes. But I would say like the one thing that has really stayed consistent has been the culture of the company. His personality, who he is, and what he believes in. And so obviously, like prior to that, I've worked in the advertising industry on the agency side for years prior and always had good experiences, but very different culture, much more concerned about the bottom line of the company and things of that nature, where at VaynerMedia, it's very much people first. You come into work day to day and just like really value the people around you, what they're bringing to the table and how we all treat each other. And I think, clients have changed over the years, roles have changed, what politically, obviously, as the digital space has changed so much in the past 6 years. But I think, the people, the way we treat each other, that has just stayed consistent always and has always been, the primary thing.
Let's talk about your title, Vice President,
Sure.
Group Account Director. That's
The
a
longest title in the
mouthful.
history of advertising.
What does that mean?
So, to be honest, I couldn't even tell you, by each word, why the word group, why the word this, why the word that.
Okay.
But I guess, at a high level, it means that I oversee, a portfolio or, a larger piece of business. So underneath me is, the account director position. So you may be dedicated to one account, or potentially a handful. I guess the jump from account director to VP is you inherit more responsibility. And so group might mean that there's multiple accounts or a portfolio of accounts.
Okay.
And my role is really sort of the leader of the business and in charge of the client relationship and the health of the overall business.
That's not at all what I thought you were going to say, to be honest with you. Not in a bad way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a group of people that you work with then every single day that gets assigned your group is basically what that.
Yeah, so, without going too much into my client's business, we work across a portfolio of brands that's under one parent company.
Okay.
And so there's a team under me, so everything from account directors to account supervisors to account executives, community managers, and
Got it.
each person either is dedicated to one of those brands or multiple brands. Within the larger portfolio. So I want to say there's around 12 to 13 people that work on my direct team, though we're all just part of one larger team. And then there, we work hand in hand with the creative team that does a lot of the designing, copywriting, and so forth. But on the account management side of things, there's around 12 to 13 of us dedicated to the piece of business that I manage.
You have an advantage where you work, and when things shift and adjust, they happen very quickly. A lot
What's
of places.
my advantage? Is Gary my advantage?
No, I think your advantage is that you don't have to ask for permission. You are trusted to do your job, and if you think that something needs to change on the fly, you don't have to go, is this going to be okay? You have been hired to do this job, and you know what you're doing. And so, that said, my question for you is how do you stay fresh on your feet to take advantage of that?
Yeah. So I guess just a couple of things. So as it relates to internal and sort of moving on the fly and as things change and kind of making decisions and being trusted, to do the right thing, absolutely. I think in the business of working at an agency, we are a service to our client. So ultimately, our client is the decision maker. So it's not always that I do get to say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to change course and just be fully trusted. Things still do need to be run by the client, and ultimately, they are the decision maker in client services industry.
Okay.
But in terms of staying fresh, staying on top of things, I think back to sort of culture, another thing that just bleeds within our DNA is staying on top of trends. I think I know you're familiar with Gary. I know you follow him. He knows the space better than anyone. And I will tell you, I sat in a meeting with him yesterday, and he just knows more than me, and he's so much cooler than I am. But I think there's nothing worse than not knowing this space and having the CEO of your company know so much and then you know so little. So I think the DNA of our company is just staying on top of the trends, trying things out, being actual practitioners of everything, Because I think you look at maybe older generations that you have like voice technology and it's harder for them to grasp. Like the older you get, sometimes it can be harder to grasp. So I think being a practitioner is so important so that when things do change, it's easier to learn, if that makes sense. And so again, I don't know that there's any like, what's the phrase, like equation to staying, fresh on things. I think it's sort of just like bled in our DNA. Okay. We are practitioners. We are on the platforms. We're reading the tech crunches. Like some people are investors. We pay attention to the stock market as it relates to things.
Okay.
The people that are emerging. So, I think, like I said, I don't think there's an exact equation. I think it's sort of just like ingrained in us.
When on set, what are the differences between a normal production versus a production where millions of people are potentially going to be viewing it?
Are you thinking more just like scale of production in terms of like process, quality, preparation? It's both the same. It's just a matter of like a lot or a little. Are you thinking more around like breaking through the clutter of media, knowing that all these eyes are going to be on it? Like, how do you approach that from like an ideation perspective?
I think it's the ideation.
Yep.
Because I've been on sets where it's pretty small set. I've never seen a multi-million-dollar production set before. But then again, that because it's a multi-million-dollar production, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have hundreds of people working on it.
Correct.
So
it also doesn't mean that more people will see it. I think that people have done multi-million-dollar production for it to completely flop.
Yeah.
I also think like that's a bit of the beauty of like digital and social. I think there's fundamentally things that cost a certain amount of money and talent that have certain rates and those things that can't be argued. But I think things that have cost almost no money have done just as well as things that have cost a ton of money and vice versa.
Yes.
Right? I think it's really about like the idea, like what's the insight, like, did you break through? Like ultimately, what's the goal?
Right.
And was the idea good enough and built in the right way to achieve that? So I don't know that like size of production necessarily matters because I think sometimes the idea might not require a big production, but other times it might, right? Virtual reality, like there's not really a cheap way to film things in virtual reality. So it can scale.
Yeah.
You want to like crash a car, you want to like fly something, like a plane costs money, right? Like it depends. Like it just really depends on like what it is.
You're right. And the more I think about it, the more it's a world I'm immersing myself even more. And I've paid attention a lot to a guy by the name of Casey Neistat. And
who just like takes his Samsung phone or his little camera on an airplane and films things from every angle, right?
And then he made the Samsung commercial, and I don't even know how much that set cost, but holy buckets, did he make I think he made a big splash, if you will. So
Sure.
It worked, but also he had a huge following, and when you have a huge following, that is just more PR for you to work with. Who have been some of your mentors in the past 3 to 5 years?
So obviously Gary, I think, and I just think like I'll tell this story because I think it's interesting. But I worked with a wine and spirits client at the start of my career back when Twitter was really like just becoming a thing. Like probably more like industry tech people were the only ones really using it. Facebook brands weren't allowed on it yet. You still, I think, had to have like a college email address to even join. And so nonetheless, I was working in the wine and spirits industry and I had joined Twitter, and Gary very early popped up on like the left side saying like suggested people to follow, and underneath his name.
You totally just covered the microphone with your thumb.
Sorry. Where is the microphone?
I don't know.
Suggested people to follow, and then like underneath his name it said like wine enthusiast, and so one, he was a Jets fan, he was pretty funny, and also it was like relevant to my career at the time, and so I followed him, and I continued to follow him even after I moved off of that client, and eventually he started starting an advertising agency, or digital, I don't even know, starting an agency, and I said, cool, like, who are some of your clients? What's up? And he's like, don't worry about it, come talk. And sure enough, I ended up, like, meeting with the team, and the rest is history, but I think, like, cliche or not, like, Gary's been a massive mentor to me. Like, I absolutely value the time that I get to spend with him, whether it be an hour to 5 minutes. Like, I can promise you, like, and I know you've seen him talk, like, you will not walk away uninspired. Like, at a minimum, it makes you feel like you need to, like, walk out the door and do something. But I, for one, just, like, completely value that time and have found him, like, incredibly valuable as a mentor. More just in terms of, like, almost, like, self-realization. Like, just a lot of the dialogue and the things that he says kind of make you sit back and think, like, what can I be doing better? Like, what can I be doing more of? What do I really want to do? Like, what does make me happy? So from that perspective, and then, you know, within my career over the years, like, whether it be somebody that I think has figured out, like, an amazing work-life balance, but still just crushes it, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, you know, to even some clients that I think, you know, again, in the client services industry, like, understanding their business and people that I have valued from their perspective that have taught me so much. So, you know, I actually spoke on a panel this morning, and we were talking about, like, the importance of having multiple mentors, not just different perspectives, and find the pieces, you know, that are most valuable to you, but also understanding, like, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, I'm still figuring that out, you know, and so it's figuring out, like, the right people to sort of, like, learn from and help guide you.
What's a brand that's been on your bucket list that you have had a chance to work with, or that you're working towards getting an opportunity to be, well, you probably can't talk about that because of proprietary, but
so I've been really fortunate enough to work across a lot of different industries already, whether that be, like, elk bev to pet food to fashion to beauty to healthcare to financial services to motorsports. Like, I've touched so many industries already, and got a little taste of it. You know, to be honest, I'm probably right now working with a client that I would say was at the top of my bucket list. But, you know, I don't know. It was funny. We were talking about this morning too. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, sometimes working on the brand that you value the most doesn't always turn out the way you think it would. So for me, I guess I wouldn't ever say it's a brand, more of an industry. I enjoy more of, like, the entertainment lifestyle. I enjoy kind of being, like, out in the world and personable and experience. So brands that kind of, you know, offer, like, experiences for people and get to partake in, like, important moments in life, I think has been, like, probably more of, like, a bucket list. So more of an industry than, like, a brand. And that industry is wine and spirits, so I'm working back in the wine and spirits industry.
I'm assuming you listen to podcasts.
Okay, so guilty. Don't, and I talk about this all the time. I just, like, haven't gotten into it, and I know that I really need to, but I don't. I know. It's terrible. I mean, I'm super familiar. I know the importance. I pay attention to, like, what's doing well. But I personally I like reading. And I don't, my commute is 8 minutes. And
That's
I
it?
commute, well, so I take a ferry and it's 8 minutes. And I commute with a coworker. So I kind of value the like face-to-face conversation more than like headphones on. So I don't know. Yeah.
Oh no.
For a while, and I like can't get into it.
Okay. It just totally froze, but it's okay.
Oh, sorry.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault at all, trust me. I've been asking people what is their most proudest accomplishment in the last year, and what are you looking forward to continuing to build the momentum on in 2018?
Sure. As it relates to work, correct?
It can be anything you want it
Yeah.
to be. It doesn't have to be work.
For me, last year, I think was a really big year in terms of looking at new technologies and new ways to reach people that could really make an impact. So I think a lot of times in advertising, we're constantly trying, to sell a product and change people's perception and make things cool and so forth. So last year, a project that was focused around drunk driving. And we use virtual reality technology to actually like put a person in the seat of a car in a drunk driving accident. So yes, I love like the final work, but the process of getting there from researching, understanding the importance, and of course I understand the importance, but like really like getting close to it. Mm-hmm. Understanding not only, how it affects like your life, but all the people involved, and, the decision from people that, maybe were with you when you were drinking and so forth. But so there's that side of it, but also just like educating myself around virtual reality. Like, nobody knows it. Well, people know it, but it's so new. So, learning like how to review things, like how to give feedback on this piece, like how to understand, even the filming. Like when we were talking with our director, it was like, I'm not filming it from like the camera's point of view. I need to assume that I'm like the consumer, right? Like, because you're creating an experience. It's not like a video that you're watching from afar. So how do you make sure you're sort of changing the point of view on things? So really just like understanding that. I mean, there's like nausea factors, right? Like you can't move it around. Like, there's just so many things. And it was like the twofold of learning a new technology, like a new space, and talk about production and like how to film and what that was like that was incredibly different. You think like you're filming, and I'm moving my hand, sorry. You're filming 360, like you're not shooting straight on. So everybody has to be like out of the way. You can't be anywhere near it. Mm-hmm. So that comes like with its own complications. But then at the end of the day, just like the impact that it can make on consumers, I think for me, again, like, you work in an industry where you're trying to sell things, and it's really cool to get the experience to do something that's actually gonna, and I truly think that like the products we work with do make an impact for the good, but doing something that sort of like raises an issue that exists in the world.